It was just that I'd promised my best friend Fenton and 5 others that I would log the Lonely Bun's taxa number on their behalf, and thus allow them to note it as proxy seen in their animal spotter books. I'd even charged them 25 cents each for the privilege, then blew the lot on licorice for Constance and a new pair of synthetic red shoelaces for me. Dad and I bartered like this for a while, and he eventually agreed to visit all of the town's attractions, but in a circular manner, to save on shoe leather. The rabbit came last, after the colour garden. So, having conceded to at least include the rabbit in the morning's entertainment, Dad returned to his toast, tea, and copy of Spectrum as I looked idly about the shabby breakfast room, seeking inspiration for the postcard I was writing. The Green Dragon dated from before the Epiphany, and, like much of the collective, had seen many moments, each of them slightly more time-worn than the one before. The paint in the room was peeling, the plaster moulding was dry and crumbly, the linoleum tabletops were worn to the canvas, and the cutlery was either bent, broken, or missing. But the hot smell of toast, coffee, and bacon, the flippant affability of the staff, and the noisy chatter of strangers enjoying the transient acquaintance gave the establishment a peculiar charm that the reserved, eminently respectable tea rooms back home in Jade under Lime could never match. I noticed also that despite the lack of any rules regarding seat plans in non-hue-specific venues, the guests had unconsciously divided the room along strictly chromatic lines. The one ultraviolet was respectfully given a table all to himself, and several greys stood at the door waiting patiently for an empty table even though there were places available. We were sharing our table with a green couple. They were of mature years and wealthy enough to wear artificially green clothes, so that all could witness their enthusiastic devotion to their hue, a proudly expensive and tastelessly ostentatious display that was doubtless financed by the sale of their child allocation. Our clothes were dyed in a conventional shade visible only to other reds, so to the greens, sitting opposite, we had only our red spots to set us apart from the greys, and were equally despised. When they say red and green are complementary, it doesn't mean we like each other. In fact, the only thing that reds and greens can truly agree on is that we dislike yellows more. "You," said the green woman, pointing her spoon at me in an exceptionally rude manner, "fetch me some marmalade." I dutifully complied. The green woman's bossy attitude was not atypical. We were 3 notches lower in the chromatic scale, which officially meant we were subservient. But although lower in the order, we were still prime within the long-established red-yellow-blue colour model, and a red would always have a place in the village council, something the greens, with their bastard blue-yellow status, could never do. It irritated them wonderfully. Unlike the dopey oranges, who accepted their lot with a cheery, self-effacing good humour, greens never managed to rise above the feeling that no one took them seriously enough. The reason for this was simple. They had the colour of the natural world almost exclusively to themselves, and felt that the scope of their sight gift should reflect their importance within the collective. Only the blues could even begin to compete with this uneven share of the spectrum, as they owned the sky. But this was a claim based mainly on surface area rather than a variety of shades, and when it was overcast, they didn't even have that. But if I thought she was ordering me about solely due to my hue, I was mistaken. I was wearing a needs humility badge below my red spot. It's related to an incident with the head prefect's son, and I was compelled to wear it for a week. If the green woman had been more reasonable, she would have excused me the errand due to the prestigious 1,000 merits badge that I also wore. Perhaps she didn't care. Perhaps she just wanted the marmalade. I fetched a jar from the sideboard, gave it to the green, nodded respectfully, then returned to the postcard I was writing. It was of Vermillion's old stone bridge, and had been given a light blue wash in the sky for 5 cents extra. I could have paid 10 and had one with greened grass, too, but this was for my potential fiancée, Constance Oxblood, and she considered over-colorization somewhat vulgar. The Oxbloods were strictly old colour and preferred muted tones of paint wherever possible, even though they could have afforded to decorate their house to the highest chroma. Actually, much to them was vulgar.